Hey, good morning, everybody. Today I want to talk about the dreaded death wobble. Got a message from a friend who'd mentioned that he'd just had a death wobble on his bike, asked if I'd ever have it happen. The answer is yes, I have. In fact, I have had it a couple times. You know what I find the biggest issue with the death wobble is a poorly maintained motorcycle. Ooh! First step, underinflated tires. If your tires are not inflated according to specs, you very well could cause, at the best, poor tire wear, and at the worst, a death wobble where the thing will wallow around like a pig on the road. Death wobble is caused by a couple of things, all dealing with your suspension and your tires, as I call it. If you have underinflated tires, you can get a death wobble. If you have low tread depth, you can get a death wobble. That was the case with this buddy of mine. It was actually more of a weave. The back end started scooting on him, and he was all over the road. His tires were down to 2/32. He was riding on a wet road, went to pass somebody, hammered the gas, and he was all over the road. The next step is smoked wheels. If you get a bent or broken or loose spoke or series of spokes, you will get a death wobble. Bad tires, bad wheels. The next thing to check will be wheel bearings. Every time you change tires, you want to check your wheel bearings. It's a real easy thing to do. It's a good time to do it. These wheel bearings will last. I think they ought to be changed out every 50,000 miles, or as close to it as you can do it. Good wheel bearings are cheap, and they'll save you a lot of grief. The next thing to check would be your neck bearings. The older Harleys have a grease zerk on them, on the neck, and every time you change oil, you ought to grease that neck. A little bit of grease can save you a whole lot of grief. Check your wheel bearing or your neck bearing and make sure it's greased well. And if you still get a wobble after checking your neck bearing, your wheel bearings, your tire depth, your wheels, and your tire pressure, next thing to check is your swing arm bearing. Your swing arm bearing, they'll go bad, usually depending on how much you ride and how hard you ride. Again, I think swing arm bearings ought to be changed about every 50,000 miles, wherever it's needed. My bike, the neck bearing, I know I'm scattered with my talk here. My neck bearing does not have grease zerk. They're sealed bearings, and so probably this winter I will be changing my neck bearing as well. Preventive maintenance saves a lot of problems. I can do the work myself, so it's not too expensive. And you may say, I don't want to do all that. Let me ask you, what is your life worth? Because if you're running down the highway above 55 miles an hour, I've added that so I don't get in trouble. You're headed down the highway maybe a smidgen above 55 miles an hour, and you get a death wobble. It is just what it says. It could cost you your life. A little bit of preventive maintenance makes a lot of difference. Like I say, what's your life worth? And if you can't maintain your bike, maybe you ought not to be riding your bike. I had death wobble on a Harley a couple times. One with bad spokes, and the other was a bad tire. Well, I shouldn't mention names. There's a certain name that was real popular. They discontinued this tire. There's a reason. It's probably the worst wearing tire I ever had. After about 4,000 miles, it started to cup. And I'm kind of anal about my tire pressures. I mean, I always check them, and end of this week? Well, Wednesday, I'll share with you what I do before I take a long road trip. I'm planning to take a little trip, about 720 miles on Thursday, and then spend a day where I'm at preaching, and then 720 miles the other way, back home again. And so I'll share with you what I do before a long road trip. It's important to keep yourself safe. It's important to check your tires. Check the inflation on your tires. Check the tread depth on your tires. Check your wheel bearings. Check your spokes. The easy way to check your spokes is every time you change tires, jack the bike up, get the tire off the ground, take an end wrench and tap each spoke, and it ought to sing you the same tune for every spoke. Bing, 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 bing. You check your spokes. Check your wheel bearings. Check your neck bearings. And there's some things like your swing arm bearing that just ought to be changed when you get so many miles on it. Hey, I hope you have a good day out there, and I hope you ride safe.